and the Todd Family YouTube video, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. Thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. It is late Wednesday night on the East Coast, so it's almost Thursday, which means we are right smack dab in the middle of week number 9 in the world of college football. Now that every team gets 2 bye weeks, it's a 14-week regular season. So come Sunday morning, there's only 5 weeks left in the regular season. We're also counting down to the World Series, which starts on Friday night, and we're also now early NBA basketball season. We had 2 games last night, and I think just about every other team in the NBA is playing tonight, including my New Orleans Pelicans. But today I want to talk some college football since we have already kicked off week number 9. We had a couple of games last night. We have a couple of games going on tonight, and then tomorrow night at 7 o'clock we have Georgia Southern and Old Dominion, which will be on ESPN2. And then we have a couple of old Big East rivals, Syracuse and Pittsburgh, who are, of course, now in the ACC. That game is 7:30 on ESPN. And then we have Friday night, 7:30, Louisville and Boston College on ESPN2. Boise State and UNLV at 10:30 on the CBS Sports Network. And the 11 o'clock game on Fox Friday night is Rutgers and USC. USC needs this win bad. I thought going into the season they were a 7-5 team maybe. But then after they got off to a pretty good start, I thought, well, they might prove me wrong. But the last few weeks, I think they've proven me right. They're going to struggle to get to 7 wins. I think Miller Moss is actually a good quarterback, but he's about all they have. It's just like it won't be long till Brent Venables is on the hot seat out in Oklahoma. It won't be long till Lincoln Riley is on the hot seat in Southern California, because USC is doing next to nothing. Glad to have you here. I can't read your name, I apologize, but I'm glad to have you here. But if you're asking who's my favorite player, I'm talking college football, so I'm going to assume you're talking college football. Hey, Kilometer, glad to have you here. I don't really have a favorite player. I'm a Clemson fan, so I like whoever plays for Clemson. If they don't play for Clemson, I don't like them. So I don't really have a favorite player. But if I had to pick one, I guess I would say probably Ashton Jeanty at Boise State, because he is so good, especially this day and time, the way football is all about quarterbacks. It's good and it's fun for the game to see a running back be as dominant as he is. Hey, Chance, glad to have you here, because Ashton Jeanty basically only plays the first half in about every game they play because they blow everybody out. And he is still right now right on par to either catch or break Barry Sanders' single season rushing record from 1988, I believe it was. And of course, Barry Sanders got the ball, 30, 35 times a game. Ashton Jeanty gets the ball 16 maybe. So that tells you just how dominant he has been. But really, I'm one of the few sports fans that don't really have players, at least collegiately. I have them in professional sports, but collegiate-wise, if you play for Clemson, I like you. If you don't play for Clemson, I don't like you. Crybaby, glad to have you here. Now we're moving to the noon games on Saturday on Fox. We have Nebraska and Ohio State. Hey, Minion, glad to have you here. And Nebraska is not beating Ohio State, but they need to be competitive because They got absolutely throttled last week and looked awful against Indiana. I think Dylan Raiola is not a five-star quarterback. Whoever said he's a five-star quarterback is out of their minds. He's fat. He's unathletic. He's slow. He delivers the ball slow. His arm motion is slow. Everything about him is unathletic. He's a three-star maybe, but he's still the best quarterback Nebraska's had in a long time. But he's all they've got. They have nothing else except Dylan Raiola. He is all they have. Actually, Christopher, glad to have you here. I guess you could say I'm average, but according to most people, I'm the most square of all people. I am completely I believe the word is supposed to be a teetotaler or teetotaler. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do drugs of any kind. Never have. I've always thought that my life is so good, I don't need drugs and alcohol to have fun. So I'll sit back, let it run before bed, and drink some sweet tea maybe. But I've never drank in my life. I've never found a reason to. I've never found it necessary. Well, thank you. I'm a good man. I appreciate that. I guess I got it from my mother. She died at 50 years old, and when she died, I never heard my mama say a cuss word. She never smoked. She never drank. I had friends in school that did it, and I would hang out with them, but I just never found the reason to do it. I never found the point with it. It just never made any sense to me. I think if you can be yourself and have fun, what's the point? Plus, nobody ever sets out to be an alcoholic, but you drink one, you want two. You drink two, you want three. Next thing you know, you're an alcoholic. When you have a good day, you want a beer. You have a bad day, you want a beer. The best way to avoid becoming an alcoholic is to never start. So I've just never started. Well, thank you, Christopher. I appreciate that. First time here, well, subscribe to the channel, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Make sure you give the video a like and a thumbs up as well. You can comment anytime. You can even comment when I do recorded videos. I do live sometimes. I record them sometimes, but even the ones that I record, I try my best to respond to every single comment as long as it's respectful and nothing silly and worth commenting and responding to. I do, but I do try to go live 2 or 3 times a week, if not more. Hey, Bill J, glad to have you here. And you're saying good morning, but it's still Wednesday night here, so I guess where you are, it is either Wednesday morning or Thursday morning. So good morning to you wherever you are. It's good night here on the East Coast. Also coming up Saturday, Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech on the ACC network. Are you a fan of Brian Griffin? I'm assuming you're talking about Family Guy. I think that's the main character in Family Guy. It's something Griffin, if that's what you're asking. No, I'm actually never been a big fan of any kind of animated type shows. Respect Seth MacFarlane. I thought that was a Family Guy character. Even back in my younger days, I never could get into the animated type cartoon shows with the exception of Bobby's World. I loved Bobby's World, and that was about the only one that I could ever watch. We have Notre Dame and Navy on ABC at noon. That should be a really, 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 really good game. And then we have Washington and Indiana on the Big Ten Network. Oklahoma and Ole Miss on ESPN. That should not be a game. Oklahoma has changed their quarterback and changed their quarterback and changed their quarterback. They even fired their OC back on Sunday, but they just can't score against air. Their offense is absolutely embarrassing. North Carolina and Virginia on the CW. If Jefferson Pilot was still around carrying the noon high-flying ACC action games, they would be carrying North Carolina and Virginia at noon. So it's going to be on the CW. Buffalo and Ohio on the CBS Sports Network. Charlotte and Memphis on ESPNU. And then we have Tulane and North Texas on ESPN2. And yes, Christopher, I am a referee for a professional independent wrestling. I don't do it for the big time, just locally because I have three small kids. I've never wanted to sign a contract with a big time company and only be home 1 or 2 days a month. I want to be there when my kids grow up. So I just do it here locally on weekends, somewhere I can drive and get back home, if not the same night, by early the next morning. Been doing it 17 years. I'm going to do it until I can no longer get down and get back up. Hopefully, that'll be long enough to where if my kids decide they want to wrestle, I can be doing it when they start wrestling. My twin boys are currently 6 years old right now. All they think about is wrestling. 12:45, we have Arkansas and Mississippi State on the SEC network. 3:30 on CBS, we have Illinois and Oregon. Illinois sitting at number 20 right now, so that's a matchup of two ranked teams. Illinois had a really good offense in that one game against Purdue, but outside of that, it's been average. So we'll see if they can score enough points to hang with Oregon on Saturday. BYU and Central Florida on ESPN. Missouri and Alabama is the 3:30 ABC game. Northwestern and Iowa is the 3:30 Big Ten Network game. Maryland and Minnesota on Fox Sports 1. Food against UConn on the CBS Sports Network. Wake Forest and Stanford on the ACC Network. Then at 4 o'clock on ESPN2, we have Oregon State and California. Jeffrey, thanks for being here. My opinion on Florida is that they're playing really, really hard, like they want Billy Napier to retain his job, because I thought last week they'd pretty much go out there and just lay an egg, and I know the team they played is not very good either. But, you know, Florida's playing like they want Napier to be retained, so they're playing hard for the coach. And Florida's athletic director is an absolute buffoon, so it wouldn't surprise me if Napier does keep his job, because the guy they got in charge of the athletics is a buffoon. But, you know, Napier, with results on the field, shouldn't keep his job. But the way the players are playing hard for him, he may end up keeping his job. The longer the season has progressed, the more I'm convinced if he don't get fired during the season, they're going to retain him. But they're off this Saturday, and after that, they've got 4 straight games. I don't think they'll win any of them. But if they win one of those 4 games, he may just keep his job. Tropo or Tropo, ever how you say it, I'm sorry for saying it wrong if I did. You are from Brazil. Glad to have you here all the way from Brazil. Then coming up Saturday night, 6 o'clock on Fox Sports 1, we have West Virginia and Arizona. 4:15 on the SEC Network, we have Texas and Vanderbilt. 7 o'clock on ESPN, Florida State and Miami. I would love to see Florida State pull off the upset, and I know Miami's defense is garbage. The Florida State's offense is terrible, so I don't think even Miami's bad defense will let Florida State score more than 24, and Miami's offense is going to score more than 24, but maybe Florida State's defense will pitch a shutout, and it'll go to the fourth quarter, and it'll be 10-7. If that's the case, Florida State has a shot. That's about the only way they have a shot. 7 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network, Utah State and Wyoming. 7:30 on ABC, LSU and Texas A&M. 7:30 on the Big Ten Network, Michigan State and Michigan. And Michigan can't throw a forward pass, so if Michigan State wins that game, I don't think I'll be that surprised. it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Michigan fire their entire coaching staff when the season's over, because I know it's Moore's first year, but they look absolutely lost on offense. Like they have no idea how to throw a football. They've had 3 quarterbacks play, and none of them can throw a football. Hey, Fred. Glad to have you here, and I'm not going to fart in my video, but I'm sure some people find that funny if I did, but I'm not going to. 7:45, we have Auburn and Kentucky on the SEC network. 7:30 on NBC, Penn State and Wisconsin. 8 o'clock on the ACC network, SMU and Duke. 8 o'clock on ESPN2, Kansas and Kansas State. 8 o'clock on True TV, San Jose State and Fresno State. 10:15 on ESPN, Cincinnati and Colorado. And 10:30 on the CBS Sports Network, Washington State and San Diego State. And that is the list of all the televised games for tomorrow night, Friday night, and Saturday. Hey, Marcus, glad to have you here. You're just in time. We're talking some college football because we are already in the midst of week number 9. And I mentioned here on the channel back, I guess, mid-August that I thought SMU had a chance to surprise some teams and finish with 8 or 9 wins. Well, right now it's looking like I'm right on par because right now they have 1 loss, and their 1 loss is to BYU, who's currently sitting either just inside the top 10 or just outside the top 10, depending on what poll you're looking at. So even their loss came to a good team. But, I've mentioned numerous times here on the channel talking about the conferences. I don't understand why all these conferences, want to expand, because to me, there's no point in a team being inside your conference if you're not going to play them. Clemson played Virginia this past weekend. I think it's like the 3rd time they've played them in 10 years. I don't think Georgia has played Texas A&M since A&M joined the conference. And I just don't understand why you want a team in your conference if you're not going to play them. What's the point? And I bring that up because now we have Clemson and Miami and SMU and Pittsburgh, who are all undefeated in ACC play. Well, Clemson plays Pittsburgh, so of course somebody has to lose that game. But outside of that, you have Clemson, Miami, and SMU, and none of those 3 teams play each other in the regular season. So now they're already looking at tiebreaker scenarios in case they all 3 finish undefeated, because of course obviously only 2 play for the conference championship, so who gets left out? And I'm not sure what the next tiebreaker is. I think it's the winning percentage of all your opponents, who has the best. I'm just guessing. I'm really not sure. But it just sucks that, it's the first year SMU is in the conference, and they have a chance to run the table. I don't think they will. I think they'll trip up and lose to somebody in conference somewhere. But they have a chance to run the table, and they're either going to make the title game based on tiebreakers or miss the title game based on tiebreakers, because they're not going to play Clemson or Miami in the regular season. Like I said, Pittsburgh's also undefeated, but they play Clemson, so somebody has to lose a game there. But you might have 3 teams finish undefeated in the ACC, and somebody will get left out. And it might benefit the one that gets left out, because if you're inside the top 10 and you don't play for the conference championship, you're probably not going to fall when the poll comes out, so you'll stay in the top 10, so you might make the playoffs because you didn't lose your conference title game. Whereas you get in, if you're 8th or 9th and you lose, you're going to fall outside the top 12. So it might benefit either Clemson or SMU for missing the ACC championship game. Thanks to all the ones who tuned in live. Thanks to all the ones who commented, even Tropo, who tuned in from Brazil. Appreciate you chiming in. I don't know what time it is currently in Brazil, but I'm glad you're here, whatever time it is over in Brazil. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. My cardiologist has a quick sense of humor. He never misses a beat. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.